Hello YouTube and welcome back to, actually I can't say World of Warships because what's actually playing in the background here is me doing a little bit of playthrough on one of my other favorite warship games, which is actually Silent Hunter 3 from several years ago. I actually just noticed that I could pick it up on Steam, so I picked it up for about $9 and I wanted to play through it a little bit, especially in the nature of discussing the current topic, which is going about on the World of Warships forums in the form of submarines. Now, before I get too far in with this whole subject, let me read out their post to you directly. So, this is a direct quote from the developers blog forum, Supertest and Submarines. Back in 2018, many of you have participated in the operation called Terror of the Deep. This event allowed everyone to try a new class in our game, Submarines. By the end of the event, it became clear that our players are highly interested in submarines and we should be engaged in full development. Now, we are happy to announce that the first stages of closed testing will begin shortly, where the new gameplay of submarines will be tested. The American and German submarines will be the pioneers of the new class. After the super test, submarines will be available for players to try on a special server before being added to the main game client. Once introduced, the new class will initially be available in a special separate battle type only, and this final configuration stage will last for several months. This will allow us to make additional changes to the new class under the conditions of the live server. We will be sharing more details with you shortly. Follow our official game channels for more news. End quote. Now, this is something that I am actually very intrigued to see how it plays out. The first and foremost that I have to mention is, first off, it sounds like they're doing they're finally deciding to do the testing for submarines right. They are doing the super testing, then they're doing closed server testing, but even once the submarines finally hit the main server, they're still going to be limited only to a specific scenario or battle mode instead of suddenly flooding random matches, co-op matches, etc. and so forth, whatever your particular flavor in-game happens to be. And as a result, they are still going to be able to be tested on the live server for those who wish to partake in those special operations or special scenarios without detracting from the main game as a whole. This is something that they probably should have done with the aircraft carrier rework. And based on what I've been hearing, this is probably the reason they're going about doing it this way is part and parcel, if not entirely, because of the, dare I say, shitstorm that was and in some ways still is the CV rework. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all is going to play out. And I actually had one of my viewers on another video just the other day ask me about this. I guess he saw the post long before I did, but he asked me directly, what do you think about submarines in World of Warships? Now, again, I had no idea that this was even proposed or put out there yet, but I looked at it from a very objective standpoint. And once I actually find it on my YouTube feed again here, real quick. Okay, found it. Yes, AKK70 asked, what do you think of submarines that come in the future, according to Devblog? Now, again, as I already said, I had not seen the Devblog post yet, so I was not aware that that was a thing yet. So my response was, as long as they are fully tested and properly implemented in the game, I am not opposed to having subs as a playable ship type. As someone who greatly enjoyed Silent Hunter 3, which you are currently watching in the background, several years ago, I would be very happy to be able to play Type 7 or Type 9 U-boats. The operative point being that they would have to be properly balanced and adjusted before release. Not released, then tweaked over the next year like the CV rework has been. Even if they spent a year limited to a special scenario or two on the live servers, not just the Halloween event, it would be interesting. And lo and behold, again, because this was probably within minutes of the Devblog post, maybe, I really don't know, but suddenly this is this is basically what the Devblog post says, that basically what I just said to this person who commented on my video with no prior knowledge at all, period, of this Devblog post. This is exactly what they're saying. Limiting it to a special scenario for however long it takes to test them out properly. Which... well, I guess I could say I thought that out right, maybe? I don't know. But maybe I was just having that same sort of epiphany that they were or something, I don't know. But it's nice to see them working in a proactive sense in regards to trying to get a new class into the game that does have a lot of potential. Coming into that, I have heard a variety of concerns regarding, say, the unrealistic nature of submarines in the Halloween event last year. And I do understand some of the points, primarily that realistically submarines were substantially slower than most surface ships. I mean, I know the Type 7 and Type 9 U-boats really only managed like 7 or 8 knots submerged, and that was if they were full flank ahead. Some of the later designs actually had better submerged speeds than surface speeds, just due to improvements in their battery systems and the electric engines. But even then, the highest speed many of them could reach was still only like 17 knots below the surface, and that I think was for the Type 21 U-boats that were implemented so late in the war that they barely had any effect at all. This is assuming that they weren't even just designs. So, again, it'll be interesting to see how they are implemented in that regard. The other thing to keep in mind is that submarines generally had very short-range torpedoes. Homing torpedoes weren't really a thing, so it would be a mistake for wargaming to introduce some sort of homing torpedo. And, well, the other thing is with some of these submarines, there were different types of torpedoes. You had the torpedoes that would leave a actual surface stream that was visible from surface ships that could basically give away the fact that the torpedo was coming and maybe give a ship a chance to evade. But you've also got some other torpedo types which did not provide that telltale wake, and you could basically torpedo a ship and they would never even know you were there until they were already hit and disabled or critically damaged or whatever. So that is something else to have in mind, is what kind of torpedoes are these submarines going to have available to them? What kind of damage are the torpedoes going to produce when they hit a target? Are they going to deal crippling amounts of damage in a single hit, or are they going to be low damage warheads that have a higher chance of causing incapacitations, flooding, etc., and so forth? And that's something that was mentioned earlier today by Nozoop4U. And yes, I have watched a couple of videos on this whole issue by now. One of the other things that is coming up as a concern is, are submarines going to be capable of capturing control points? What conditions are going to be available for submarines to capture those control points? Are they going to be relegated to capturing on the surface, or are they going to be your stealthy capture types that nobody can really do anything about, unless something that is distinctly ASW capable, like a destroyer or maybe even a light cruiser, happens to be present? So that's something else to have in mind, is just what kind of conditions are these submarines going to have in regards to the capability of capturing? Because these are going to be stealthy ships that can kind of get in, do a little bit of knife fighting, and potentially get out of dodge without anybody being any the wiser. So that's just one of those other things for wargaming guys to have in the back of their mind is what role do they want these ships to play? Because this could be that stealth knife fighter type of class ship that the game, well, I can't exactly say the game desperately needs, but it would definitely be interesting to see how a class like that would be implemented, because Lord knows a lot of the destroyers really aren't quite tailored to that role, really outside some of the Japanese torpedo boats, and even then they're still very capable of being picked up easily on the surface, especially with radar, which, now that I think about it, how are submarines going to interact with radar? Is a submerged submarine going to be immune to the radar signals of surface ships? That could be an interesting anti-radar tool to have in game. Are submarines going to be, as long as they're submerged, are they going to be unable to be detected by ships that have radar? All of a sudden I'm hoping somebody from Wargaming actually watches this video, because that would be a very interesting thought. And I do hope that they would actually watch it all the way through to this point, because they might just get a good idea. I certainly think that your submariners would definitely love not having to worry about radar too much. Anyway, getting away from that, that is the whole phenomenal issue that is going on in the World of Warships developer blog. I will leave you all to discuss it, and I hope to catch you all again later. Wish you all happy hunting. Stay safe out there, folks.